वक्रतुंड महाकाय सूर्यकोटि समप्रभा निर्विघ्नं कुरु मे देव सर्वकार्येषु सर्वदा। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुर्साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरुवे नमः। तस्मै श्री गुरुवे नमः। Namaste friends, welcome to session 17 of the series Gift, Gita for Inner Freedom and Transformation, a study of selected verses from Bhagavad Gita based on Shankara Bhashya. We concluded the previous gift class with the famous verse Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam dharma sanstapana arthaya sambhavami yuge yuge, where Sri Krishna states that he appears in every yuga for the protection of the righteous, for the destruction of the unrighteous, and for the establishment of righteousness. In today's class, Sri Krishna returns from the topic of the avatara to the content of the Gita as Moksha Shastra. He gives clear means and lists the stages by which we can realize the self. We also see the verses where Krishna explains why and how he created the Varna system to recognize our inert nature and to start from there and move up accordingly. Lots to learn and discover today. I invite Dr. Kiran to introduce and moderate this very interesting class. Over to you, Dr. Kiran.
Thank you, Neetaji. Sadashiva-samarambham Shankaracharya-madhyamam Asmadacharya-paryantam Vande Guru-paramparam. We are now studying the fourth chapter of the Gita. This is one of the very important chapters because here the Gita Stuti or the importance of Gita and the source from which Krishna takes from is mentioned. Apart from that, Avatara, I think as far as I have read, this is the only place where Avatara is so clearly and distinctly explained. Apart from that, we also learn about self-realization as God realization, and the center or theme of the entire Gita or this chapter, that is Gnana Karma Sannyasa, or action in inaction and inaction in action. What does that mean? We have seen this sentence being spoken about in many places like a googly. Today we will understand and unfold this secret. And also in next class perhaps we will be studying the sadhana or how to acquire it. Gita Stuti has Krishna mentioned this, he has sourced it from Upanishads or Vedas. In short, this is infinite and this is apaurushaya, that is not written by the human being. This has got a universal message. This is very important. That is, this message is relevant in all periods of time and place. Like it doesn't have, Gita doesn't have first edition, second edition like that. I remember when I was doing my neurosurgery, one famous textbook was there, Yeomans. We studied first 2 years, and third year there came a new edition. And when I opened that book and saw all the things which I thought was important in the previous edition is curtailed and some new chapters are added on. And it was totally bewildering for me. Gita, Vedas and Upanishads are not like that because it is created or the source is infinite, hence there's no need to change it. And this is not just some bland statement I'm making. We will learn today that why it is so. Another very important thing we learned was Avatara Rahasya, or the difference between Avatar and Jiva. Krishna also was human being like me and you. Rama also was like human. What is the difference between them and us? One is cause, Avatara is omniscience, that is, he knows future and past and present, and he descends because of compassionate, whereas Jiva is a cycle due to ignorance. And nature, it is always free, and whereas Jiva, that is, human beings, are perpetually bonded and always struggling to come out of it, like a person in the water, or the what we call marsh. The more you struggle, the deeper you go. That is what many a times many of us feel about Jiva. And the body, it is directly, because it is omniscient, it is directly derived from Maya. No Panchikarana occurs, and it is very according to the purpose, and once the purpose is done, the avatara disappears. This is, we see Narasimha, he has got lion face, and so on and so forth, whereas Jiva is born out of Panchi Karana, and that's why still we attain enlightenment, we are going to be in the bondage, and even after that, the prarabdha has to be finished before we attain the Videha Mukti. The purpose of it is invariably, or most of the time, is dharma. Either it is protection of dharma or to get rid of adharma. It can be a people, or if the adharma is source. In previous incarnations of Dashavatara, we saw he comes with a purpose, like to kill some demon and things like that. Whereas if we see the ninth avatara, it is Buddha. He has come not to kill anybody, but to kill adharma itself by teaching the play, what is called as dharma and a new way of enlightenment. Dharma is protected by protecting the person who follow dharma. So the first thing about dharma is, it's not protected by spreading things and or teaching, etc. First thing is, we have to follow dharma. That is the where we have. It's not like we say, oh, somebody else is converting people, and not like that. If we are dharmic, there will be a way out. And second is punishing the adharmic people. Before that, we have to be dharmic. Rama taught by living the Dharma, and Krishna taught by teaching the Dharma. That's why these two avatars are very important. And Krishna, after his teaching, did he disappear? No. He is still alive in the form of Gita. Anybody who is reading Gita, anybody who is following Gita, anybody who is teaching Gita, Krishna is there amongst them always. Leaders like Mahatma Gandhi found solace and solution in Gita during crisis. We also should learn, practice, and Gita so that we move from adharma to dharma. As long as we are learning, following, and teaching Gita, avatar is continuing. That is Parit Sambhavami Yuge. So Krishna is always there in any time and any place. So we don't have to wait for some Mahapurusha to come. This we have learned in the last few verses. Now, today we'll be learning about the main theme, that is moksha jnana. What is action in inaction and inaction in action, and how God realization is self realization. Just in other forms of material world or material literature and material science, just by learning something, we don't become. If I know about eagle, I don't become eagle. But how is it that if I realize God, I become God? Jivan Mukta, we will learn today. Let us start with Dr. Anupama. She will explain the next verse.
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha, verse 9. Janma karma sa me divyam evam yo veti tattvataha tyaktva deham punarjanma na eti mam eti surjuna. In 3 words, this means jnanat eva kaivalyam. Next slide, sir. Krishna says, Ishvara Swarupa Jnanat Moksha Siddhi. That is, God realization is the means of liberation. Earlier in chapter 2, Krishna had said, Prajahati yada kaman sarvan partha manogatan atmanyevatmana tushta sita pragnistadocyate. This means self-realization is the means to liberation. So, do we have a choice between God realization and self-realization? Next slide, sir. Which of the two is the means to moksha? Scriptures have said that there is only one moksha marga. Therefore, God realization is self realization. Next slide, sir. So, when we look at the truth of creation from the standpoint of totality, we call it God. And when we do so from the standpoint of the individual, we call it self. Just as the truth of the wave and truth of the ocean is just water, so also from the micro angle it is called self-realization, and from the macro, God realization. Therefore, be it self-realization or God realization, we arrive at one Satchid Atma Swarupa only. Next slide, sir. Swami Ramana Maharshi in his Sad Darshanam says, Yat ikshitu vikshanam ikshitaram avikshatan manasikekshanam syat na drashtu anya paramohitasya vikshasvamule praviliya nishta. This means if a person sees God as an object other than himself, his vision of God is not real. It is manasikekshanam syat. Whereas only when God is recognized not as different from the self, but as Tat Brahma Aham Asmi, it's only then that one really knows Yo Veti Tattvataha. Next slide, sir. So, when Krishna says Yaha Tattvataha Veti, he means whoever understands that Krishna Shariram, Krishna Janma, Krishna's exploits or leelas are apara prakriti, mayikam, therefore mithya, only then he knows the true nature. By knowing my true nature, or tattvataha, Krishna says, me janma or mama janma is a divine incarnation. As we've seen earlier in verse 6, ajaha api san avyayatma, bhutanam ishvara api san, prakriti swam adhishtaya, sambhavami atma mayaya. This means although I am birthless and deathless, although I am the Lord of all beings, I take birth through my own maya, my own prakriti to restore dharma. Also, the one who knows that mama divyam karva, my divine exploits, as we've seen in verse 8, paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkrutam, that is, protection of the righteous and destruction of the unrighteous. Therefore, the one who knows my paramartika swarupam, saha mam eti or agachati, he will become one with me. Mad bhavam agataha. He attains my nature, which is Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam, Brahma. Next slide, sir. So, what is the benefit of this knowledge? Tyaktva deham punarjanma na eti. After death, instead of being reborn, he will attain me. With this knowledge, the Tattva Jnanam, one attains Brahma Nirvanam or Ishvaraikyam. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Anupama. That was very beautifully explained. I love this word Ishvara Swarupa. And I was thinking I will take a source from Kaivalya Upanishads to explain this. And incidentally, Dr. Anupama also used the same one to explain it. I just want to explain a little bit. Infinite are the names and forms of God. This is possible because in reality, he has no name or no form. Any name you take to describe God falls short of what he is or what it is. So, Upanishad says, Sarva Bhutastam Atmanam. That means Atma is present as inherent principle in every being, like a thread in a pearl necklace, that is Sutra Manigana Eva. Atma is in everything. In fact, there is Atma only. It's not like if you remove Atma, you get Anatma. If you remove Atma, only Atma is present because even nothingness is blessed by Atma only. Sarva Bhutani cha Atmani. That means Atma is indivisible and all pervading. It is a substratum that supports everything and beyond. That is, it is the Adhara Tattvam of everything, and even everything is in Atma. Like space, because of space, things come into being. not the other way around. If you see some big black hole or the whole mass of solid before this creation, you cannot distinguish anything. Only once the space is created, planets and whole universe come into being. That is why consciousness is there in and through and beyond. So we have to shift our me, that is the small me, from being me, that is this body mind complex. And this I should involve the entire universe. You, the audience sitting, my friends, my relatives, even my enemies, things and non things, everything should be expansion of me. In a beautiful book called Book of Mirdad, he explains that mind is actually beyond body itself. As we expand our thinking, what we call me or I keeps on expanding. It involves my family, my friends, city, country, world, and so on and so forth. That is why once we expand this, we realize what is God and how more will be God. That is how this key word, that realization of God, is self realization. And knowing Brahman, there is no other way than being God. That is, there is no other way other than dropping me, or the other way is that me should include everything. Paramam yati. That's why knower of Brahman becomes one Brahman. Brahma with apnoti param. There is no division. This division is a myth. And Aikyam means you are not joining something, you are just dropping the notion of separation. We realize that there is no separation between me, you, Atma, Anatma. Na anya hetuna. Realizing this or this knowledge, this is the only way to attain Brahman or moksha. Just like how if you want to dispel darkness, you have to throw light. There's no other way. By studying physics, biology, you are not going to dispel any darkness. Similar way, you want to attain ultimate freedom, knowledge is the only way. There is no there's no moksha for me as long as I is there. And I should be like a god in the sense I should be like a silence from which all the sounds can come. And I should be like a blank canvas in which God can and the world can paint without any resistance. This is the divinization of the world, and this is the divinization of self. This is how we realize Brahman. The next verse will be explained by Sri Ullas. Ullas, please.
Thank you, sir. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. As Dr. Kiran earlier mentioned, that this is a very crux part of the Gita Shastra itself. So in chapter 2 also we saw that the way to realize moksha was self-realization. And here in chapter 4 we are talking about God realization. Then it might appear that are there two ways? But actually the teacher says that no, it is pretty much the same thing. The self-realization and God realization is one and the same thing. But how is that? Because if let's say a wave has to understand its original nature, or if the ocean has to understand its original nature, both of them will ultimately come to water as being their true nature. So whether we realize water from the standpoint of ocean, or we realize water from the standpoint of a wave, at the end of the day, the true nature is water. So that is how we need to look into this fourth chapter also. So this 4.10 verse says, Vitaraga Bhaya Krodha Manmaya Mamupashritaha Bahavo Jnana Tapasa Puta Mad Bhavam Agataha. So there is like a stepwise, we have been told what is the roadmap, how we can attain the Lord. So the first step, the next slide we'll see, the first step is talked about is Manmaya. Manmaya means when I set my goal for anything, let's say if I want to become a tennis player or a cricket player, only that person becomes a great player who is completely immersed into that. The only thought that sote, jagte, whatever they are doing, only one thought is in their mind. I have to become that player. I have to become that player. So we have to also have that thought. Man Maya. We have to have Lord's thought in our minds always, that I have to achieve moksha, has to be my primary and only goal. And then there can be secondary goals which help us in that. But Man Maya, we have to be obsessed with that thought. So that is the step number one. Then the second thing is Mam Upashritaha. How much ever we try, there are so many things which are out of our control. Like I sometimes say that even if I do some kind of a ball, but there can be n number of things that can happen. That there is a different type of a pitch, there are different fielders are there, etc., etc. So it doesn't just matter on my effort only. There are n number of conditions that are there which can result or which can impact the outcome. So there has to be a lot of God's grace also that has to be there. So for that, we need to completely surrender to the Lord, that yes, I have this desire, I will do my part, but I am completely surrendering to you. And that is Mamu Pashrita. He says that you just rely on me, that like that double engine. So there is an engine in the front, and then there is a God's grace's engine behind us also. So that is always taking us towards that. So now that we are settled with these two things, then what is the, like, how do we set the GPS from there on? So, the most important, or like the most biggest obstacle that there is raga. It's talking about Vita Raga Bhaya Krodha. We have to get rid of this Raga, Bhaya, and Krodha. Bhaya and Krodha are kind of products of Raga and Dvesh only. And Dvesh is also just another uh, side of the same coin as of Raga. Raga means what? Raga is attachment, and attachment towards the world. I have so many attachments towards the things and beings and etc. So that we have to get rid of. Now, how does that happen? So there is like two, three ways there, two stages are there. Like first I get into the upasana of, let's say, Saguna Ishvara. And in Saguna Ishvara also there is two stages. One is Eka Rupa Ishvara, and then there is Aneka Rupa Ishvara. So in in that Eka Rupa Ishvara, I devote everything that I do as a worship, as my giving to the Lord. So Ishvara Arpada Buddhi is there, and Prasad Buddhi. So I do everything that I do as a Karma Yoga. And in that, what happens is whatever comes to me, I accept it as prasad. And so all the anxieties, all the attachment, that slowly just reduces. And so now my attachment reduces from the world, and then I'm starting to getting attached to God. So my world dependence moves to God dependence. And then ultimately, I will realize that God is nothing but myself itself. And so it will come to self-dependence. So Vita Raga Bhaya Krodha. I have to get rid of this Raga Dvesha through Karma Yoga. And once Rag goes down, my Bhaya will also goes down. Because if I don't have any attachment, then I will not fear of any losing anything, or I will not have any anger also if anything comes or goes which I like or don't like. So once we have done that, then the most important step comes. Now that my mind is purified, then I have to again do one more thing is there, that a purified mind is great, but it's very wandering, it's very wavering. So I need to make sure that I do my upasana yoga, and so I make my mind very focused. Then jnana tapasa, that is the all the other things are a preparatory step, but this is the step which is very important for us to actually know. As Dr. Kiran just said, that for darkness, the only way to get rid of it is light. So for ignorance, for self-ignorance, the only way is self-knowledge. So that is jnana tapsa, the jnana yoga. So that is the final impurity, that is the subtlest impurity that we need to remove, and that is only possible through self-knowledge. And once we do this, in the next slide, we see that Lord says that you do this manmaya mamupashritaha Vitaraga Bhayakrodha and Jnana Tapsa, and then Puta. People will become completely purified. And not just one person, Bahava, many have done that. So he gives us confidence that it is not that, oh, only some rare people can do it. No, everybody can do it if we follow this whole roadmap, this GPS. And once we do that, then Mad Bhavam Agataha, then they attain me. And here again it says attain me. It's not that I have to go and reach somewhere in a space time fabric, that I have to go to some place or in some time that I will reach there. Nothing has to be done. Only I have to just uncover all the impurities out of my real self, and then it is all shining there. So that is the attainment that we are talking about. So God plus impurities is me. So if I remove the impurities, these conditioning, all these things that I have put on myself, then what remains is the real self. So this is the step-by-step method which is being told for this moksha attainment and attaining the Lord himself. Thank you, sir. Hari Om.
Thank you, Ullas. He has explained very beautifully the sadhanas and the roadmap. First thing is we should have a roadmap, that is Vyavasatmaka Buddhi, as Lord Krishna says. We should first understand what exactly is moksha or what is enlightenment. Some people have a wrong conception that if I attain moksha, that I will not have any troubles. No, it's not like that. Prarabdha will always get you. But with this knowledge, you will learn how to face whatever comes, and in spite of whatever happens, you will be happy. And you will do everything out of fulfillment and happiness, not you will try to do to get happiness and fulfillment. This is the key of attaining moksha knowledge. And of course, mind control is an important sadhana. Second, he has very nicely explained is surrender and grace. Grace of the Lord is always there everywhere, but we should have an appropriate wavelength to receive it. And that is possible only if we drop our ego and all the arrogance of the material science we have has given us and surrender to the Lord and Guru. Then the grace opens up and we realize the immense potential of the knowledge. And also in this path, we automatically get purification of mind. One good thing is all these need not like a stepwise one after other. It can go simultaneously also. And as our mind flower and become mature, and we realize and to the higher self. And most important thing is study of scriptures. Next verses, two verses will be explained by Srimati Vidyaji.
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. After the Avatara Rahasyam, Lord Krishna discusses the main topic of the fourth chapter, Jnana Karma Sannyasa. Arjuna's fear was karma, and Lord Krishna wanted to drive home the fact that one cannot escape from karma. We have already learned in the third chapter, Nahi Kashchit Kshanamapi Jatu Tishtasya Karmakrit. Even for a moment, a person cannot remain without action. Only at the time of death, action ceases. This chapter tells us that only through Jnanam one can be active as well as remain unaffected by both the action as well as the results of the action. Now coming to the verse, Chaturvanyam Mahasrishtam Gunakarma Vibhagashaha Tasya Kartaram Apimam Vidya Kartaram Avyayam. Chaturvarna means the four orders of the society. Varna means the fourfold division of the society. Vedas teach us how to live a life of harmony. We have the ashrama vyavastha, which takes care of the individual growth, while Varna vyavastha takes care of the social needs. The scriptures specify that material and spiritual growth has to be parallel for a balance in the inner and outer personality. The four ashramas are the Brahmacharya, Grahastha, Vanaprastha, and Sannyasa. All have to go through these, if not physically, at least inwardly. But Lord Krishna is referring to the Varna Vyavastha in the first line, Chaturvarnam Maya Srishtam. I am responsible for Chaturvarnam, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra, the four class of people. This division can be seen from three different angles. First one is character-based division, Gunakarma Vibhagashaha, that is Swabhava, Guna Brahmana, Guna Kshatriya, Guna Vaishya, Guna Shudra. Next, we have the classification based on the profession, that is karma or occupation. Karma Brahmana, Karma Kshatriya, Karma Vaishya, and Karma Shudra. Lord Krishna time and again specifies that it is only guna and karma that decides the class of people and definitely not the caste, even though the next angle is based on the birth. Jati Brahmana, Jati Kshatriya, Jati Vaishya, Jati Shudra. Lord Krishna is talking about the character and occupation based classification of the Vedic society in this sloka. Lord Krishna says, this division has been created by me based on guna and karma. This verse paves way for how to get knowledge and work in the world without being affected by both responsibilities as well as the results of action. Here he quotes the example of himself to prove the efficacy of Jnanam. Lord had problems right from birth, grew up facing all kinds of ups and downs. In spite of all this, he remained untouched by both the karmas as well as the karma phalam. Tasya kartaram api mam vidhi. I remain a karta involved in all action. Tadapi akartaram mam vidhi. I remain inwardly akarta, meaning untainted by action. Karma as well as karma phalam does not affect me. Therefore, I am avyayam, which means I am undisturbed. Nirvikaraha aham asti, asangaha aham asmi. The same idea is clarified further in the next verse. Namam karmani limpanti, name karma phale spraha, iti mam yobhijanati, karma bhirna sabhadyate. Lord Krishna says, neither karma nor karma phalam can disturb me. All those karmas, srishti, sthiti, laya, are really don't belong to me at all, as they are all of lower order of reality belonging to the Maya realm. Bhagavan is Nitya Mukta Ananda Surupam Brahma Asmi. In the second line of the verse, Lord Krishna is coming to the real topic of the Gita. Sayoha, next slide, doctor. Sayoha vai tat paramam Brahma Veda Brahmaiva Bhavati. This is from Mundakopanishad. Lord Krishna is paraphrasing this mantra of Mundakopanishad. Whoever knows that Ishvara is Akarta Abhokta, that knower Jiva also becomes Akarta Abhokta. As a result, he becomes free from karma. Once I become akarta by knowing Ishvara is a karta, once I become akarta, I also become free from karma. This freedom from karma alone is called jnana karma sannyasa. Therefore, Ishvara jnanena karma sannyasa bhavati. Once there is a shift from triangular format to binary format, that means I'm free from karma. Therefore, yahamam abhijanati. Whoever knows Ishvara, karma bihi sahana badhyate. He is not bound by karma. In Bhashyam, Bhagavan looks at himself as a karta. So whatever he does will not produce punya papam. This ahankara abhava is the cause for avoidance of punya papam. Swami Paramarthananda says, the indication of ahankara is anxiety regarding the future or the consequences of my action. As long as I have anxiety, I will have ahankara. As long as I have ahankara, I will have kartrutvam. And as long as I have kartrutvam, I'll get punya papam. If anxiety is there, punya papa is definite. And if anxiety is dropped, punya papa will not come. So this is Lord Krishna's promise. Contribute the best and let the future take care of itself is the essence of this verse. Thank you very much, Doctor.
Thank you, Vidyaji. Chaturvarnyam Maham Shrishtam Guna Karma Vibhagani. This line I've read multiple times. In fact, we have even searched in other places of Gita, almost similar Varnashrama. He says at least twice he comes across. Nowhere he mentions about Jati or birth. So, Varnas is based on, as she has said very clearly, Guna and Karma, and Jati as no Vedic importance, no Vedic or Upanishad or even Gita importance. So, the people on both sides of the fence, that is, those who are supporting Jati or caste system, also cannot quote Gita or Shruti as support. Wherever it is mentioned, we have to take in context. That is, if some knowledge is mentioned, it is always guna, or if some activity is mentioned, it is karma, like that. Or the persons who are opposing the system also cannot blame Gita or Vedas for it. As we know, Satvika, that is one who is peace loving, knowledge based, this is one of the guna. And Rajasic is one who likes activity, profit, loss, so much. And other Tamasic, who is always inactive. These are the three gunas. And based on the gunas, one of the Swamijis in one satsang, we had a lengthy discussion about this, and he says it is guna we have to always give predominance. In our history also we studied Buddha, even though was from Kshatriya, we know his story from childhood that his brother, hunts a swan and he tends to it. So even from childhood, he had that sattvika. Whereas Arjuna, Krishna knows him right from childhood, had no such glimpse of it. If he had shown any of such glimpse before, as soon as Arjuna had dropped the bow, he would have said, okay, go to forest and go and find a guru. He never did it because Arjuna was Rajasic and Kshatriya by birth and by guna. That is why Krishna is asking him to do his dharma. Another beautiful word or sentence which we have to, because this is the crux of the whole Gita and the Upanishad, that is me eti abhijanati. So the one who knows this secret, that is of mind, that is the avatara rahasya or what we are learning, then they will have freedom in spite of activities, not freedom from activity, not freedom from responsibility, but freedom in spite of responsibility. This is the key thing, and we have already learned some of it. First is by mind control and by having the higher goal as a goal setting, purification, and etc. Still, we will learn because next two verses are the very key, and perhaps next class is we will go into more depth. This is a very favorite verse of our sir, that is the doctrine of Buddha. He says, my doctrine is to think the thought that is unthinkable, to practice the deed that is not doing, to speak the speech that is inexpressible, and to be trained in a discipline which is beyond discipline. What is this? We will learn in the next two verses. Next verse will be explained by Vinayak. Vinayak.
Hari Om, Sri Guru Bhyo Namaha. So very important section of the Bhagavad Gita is verse number 18 to 24 of 4th chapter. From the 18th verse up to 24th verse, Krishna deals with knowledge, which is a solution for all human problems. And in this portion, Lord Krishna condenses all the Upanishadic knowledge. So here, verse goes like this: Karmanya karmaya pashet, karmani cha karmayaha, sabuddhiman manusheshu, sayukta krishna karmakrat. Krishna talks about Atma, Anatma, Viveka here. So the difference between higher I in me and the lower I in me. The higher I is the Atma and the lower I is the Ahankara or ego. And the higher I, Atma, has been talked about in the second chapter elaborately in verse number 12 to 25. So here Lord Krishna pointed out that this Atma is the nature of consciousness, distinct from the body. Pervading the body, it is one and all pervading. And Krishna wants to highlight one aspect of Atma here, that is Akarta nature of Atma. It does not perform any action at all. It is only a witness. And this Akarta Atma, this Ekatma, this Purnatma is my higher nature. And I have got a lower I also that is called Ahankara. And this lower I is nothing but called the mind. And according to the scriptures, the mind by itself is inert, but the mind can become sentient, blessed by the higher I. This sentient life mind is called Ahankara, which is Karta and Bhokta. This finite mind, the Ahankara, the ego has to perform the actions because it is its nature. It cannot remain quiet. When the Ahankara performs karma, it accumulates punyam and papam. And this Ahankara exhausts part of punyam and papam. and often loads of punya papams remains unexhausted and it is carried forward to the next janma. The higher I, the self called Atma, do not do any karma, are free from punya papa, and do not travel at all. I, the higher I, incapable of traveling, but this lower I, the inferior I, the ahankara or the ego, capable of doing action and traveling also. When this ahankara quits the body, body becomes dead body. Through this verse, Lord Krishna wants to say that at anatma level, karma cannot be given up. Atma level, karma need not be given up. So the wisdom is accept actions at anatma level, never try to escape from action, and own up the actionlessness or permanent rest in atma level. I am ever restful, peaceful at atma level. And at anatma level, all the time, one action or the other action will be there. This system is called Jnana Karma Sannyasa Yoga. Verse says, Karmanya Karmaya Pasher. A wise person sees the actionlessness of the Atma, the permanent peace of Atma, when Karmani, even when there are actions at Anatma level. So he does not find peace by stopping the action, but discovers peace in spite of action. So Jnani sees inner actionlessness during the outer activity also. Inner actionlessness means actionlessness at the level of Atma. Outer action, action at the level of Anatma. Second part is akarmani cha karma pashyati. The wise person sees action in the inaction. Krishna wants to convey that when the body mind complex is resting, either during sleep or any time of the day, superficially sees it looks anatma is actionless, but they are not absent. They are all waiting in seed form. The chemical reactions of the body continues during the sleep state also. The moment we wakes up, we become aware that we have to go to do some work, etc. The wise person sees potential action in the actionlessness of the body mind complex, which means body mind complex is ever active, either outwardly active, explicitly active, or potentially active, whereas Atma is ever actionless. And Krishna says, Sabuddhiman, since I have shifted the I from the inferior I to the superior I own up my akarta nature all the time. Even when the inferior I, the Ahankara is active, I do not claim the activity of Ahankara I. Say that in the presence of the actionless I, the ego is active. I am free from all the actions. So this detachment from Ahankara is benefit of wisdom. Samanisheshu Buddhiman, the one who does not allow his Ahankara to play. Sayukta, he is a yogi, he is a master, and Sa Krishna Karmakrit. He is a person of accomplishment, all accomplishment. He is an accomplished person. This is Jnana Karma Sannyasa. Thank you.
This is a very important verse and very beautifully explained by Vinayakan. Since it is central theme, let us revisit and re-emphasize this. This verse looks almost as a mix of contradicting, but when we unfold it, the real meaning comes in. Just like many of the Mahavakyas, we can learn it only what the Zen master says, like Kuan, that we have to stun our mind to realize what it means. The first is Atma, as we studied before, is infinite and ever changing. So it cannot do any action because it cannot change. And Atma is always actionless. And second, Anatma is temporary and it is finite. So it can never be there without doing any action. Let us study this. How is it? First, Atma is one Advitiya and Anatma are many. That is why it is infinite. And second, we learn that the body mind complex, otherwise called Ahankara ego, can never be free from action because this ego arises from finiteness, incompleteness, ignorance. That's why, as Vinayakan told, even in sleep, the potential action is always there. The karma wakes you up like that, regardless of how deep you are sleeping. And Krishna want to say that even when the body mind complex is seemingly actionless, there is always activity going on. Our pranamaya sharira always does breathing action, digestion will be going on, mind will be planning inside what to do next day. This is what he says. That's why we should always realize that this body mind complex always does action based on guna and karma. And I, the substratum of this body mind complex, is a seer of all these. That is why sakshi of all this. That's why I need not do, I cannot do any action. This is what is means. That's why the wise person sees action in inaction and inaction in action. Let us study further. Let us see this man in the mirror. Is the reflection real? No. But is it possible without the man? No. What is it made up of? Is Atma responsible for distortion we see in this mirror? No. It is the body-mind complex or the finiteness of this mind complex, the layers, impurities which envelop this, that is responsible for the distortion. That is why we see the world as it is. And the world is not as it is, we see. And inaction in action. To tell that in a short form, this is to perform action without any bondage. How is it possible? Is it possible at all? Yes, it is to go with the flow, to go with the dharma, to go with compassion, to go with goodness. This is the action which every wise man, every enlightened man does. And to move beyond dharma. Sanatana dharma doesn't mean, written dharma. It is the universal dharma of compassion, empathy, love, truth, and non-violence. Non-violence doesn't mean that, passivity. It means do no harm either to others or to yourself. These are the Sanatana dharmas. And if our actions are based on this and we don't have any desire for fruits, that is, if we give away this karma palam and identify with Atman, that is, always recollect the scriptures and say, I am asangaha, detached, I am nityaha, nirvikalpa, nirakara, then actions done in these lines do not have any karma palam and hence there is no bondage. That is what Krishna says. If Arjuna fights and kills also, if he does following these things, then he will not incur any papa or punya. The main thing is to keep this ahankara or ego out. We always, whether we are sattvic, whether we are rajasic, this ego always follows us. Just think back in 10th chapter, Krishna says, Patram palam pushpam. Even a grain of sand which we offer to the Lord, we cannot make our own. Whether it is Elon Musk or it is Einstein, nobody can manufacture even a small grain of sand, let alone Taj Mahal or Mandir, etc. So if we claim that I have built this, I have that, no. In fact, I recollect a beautiful small incident. One of our friends or enlightened person, he has kept an ashram. Even at this, he is now around 70 plus and 80, and he is running a ashram for orphan children, and it involves a lot of work, small children. And we thought, why you are taking this responsibility? I called, in spite of all this you are doing. Then he called me and he said, I don't do anything. It just happens. He told. That is how an enlightened person says. And next important verse will be explained by Srimati Kirti.
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha, Chapter 4, verse 19. Yasya sarve samarambhaha kama sankalpa varjitaha jnanagni dagda karmanam tam ahuhu panditam buddhaha. Translation. He whose actions are all free from desires and fancies and whose actions are burnt by the fire of knowledge, sages call him wise. In the previous verse 18, Sri Krishna has described Agnani as Buddhiman. This wisdom is glorified in the following verses 19 to 24. Sri Krishna says, this Gnani can proclaim that I am ever Akarta. Ahankara is ever Karta. And because of the falsification of ahankara, I am nitya mukta atma asmi. Slide 2. What does this wisdom do to Gnani's activities and lifestyle? Gnani sarve samarambaha becomes kama sankalpa varjitaha, meaning all actions and initiatives undertaken by a Gnani are free from the stimulus of desire and fancy. Fancy means identification with an object or person seeking comfort or fulfillment or purnatvam by repeatedly seeking them. Swami Paramarthananda explains that Sankalpa is the cause of Kama and Kama is the effect. And when Sankalpa becomes Kama, Kama will become Karma. Kama has an insatiable hunger like Agni. Gnani blessed with Atmagnana is a Viveki and Atmatvena realized oneness between Jivatma and Paramatma. That is Aikyam Gnanam. His mindset has shifted from the triangular format of samsara, comprising of Jiva Jagat Ishvara, to the binary format understanding of Atma Satyam Jagat Mithya Jivo Brahmaiva Naparaha. His mindset has raised itself from Ahankara Pradhana to Sakshi Pradhana. He disassociates from Kartrutva Abhimana, that is Ahankara. Ishvara Jnanena Karma Sanyasaha Bhavati. Gnani, identifying himself as Asanga Atma, knows with conviction that all karmas belong to Anatma and Anatma Karmani and Phalam are all Mithya. Since Gnani claims that I am Atma, a Karta, and never Ahankara, the Karta, Bhokta, whatever karma Ahankara does in his presence will not come under karma category, it will come under karma abhasa category. Abhasa means semblance, not true, in name only, reflection. All karmas normally will produce agami punya and papam, but karma abhasa will not produce agami punyam and papam. Like a roasted seed cannot sprout to produce. Gnani therefore has no karma phala akanksha and samsara way of thinking. He is a karta from vyavaharika drishtya, a karta from paramatika drishtya, and enjoys purnatvam. The driving force for all his activities will become one of universal compassion without any selfish motive. His compassion gets crystallized into appropriate action according to the need of the situation and whatever resources he has. His activities are Loka Sangraha Karmani. His activities are Loka Sangraha Karmani, just like Bhagavan's avatara. For Sri Krishna, life is a Leela, and for a Gnani, life is also a Leela. What caused this transformation of Gnani's karma to karma abhasa? How did his karma get roasted? What does a well-kindled Gnani, Gnanagnihi, do to a Gnani in the making? Gnana, that is knowledge or wisdom, is likened to Agni. Agni is the agent of transformation. Gnanagni is the essence of the knowledge of existence. Gnanagni destroys ignorance and all delusions and removes nescience. Tivra mumukshutvam for Atmagnana, a form of kama and karma, makes the spark of knowledge about Atma into a well-kindled flame called the fire of wisdom, Gnanagni, resulting in transformation of Gnani's vision about himself. He proclaims himself as Aham Brahma Asmi and knows Sarvam Khalvidam Brahma. Gnani's Ahankara's karma is roasted in the fire called Gnanagni, causing Dagda Karmanam and destruction of Kartrutva Bhava or sense of his Ahankara. And its Mithya Darshanam happens. Gnani's Gnanagni enhances the understanding of karma, akarma, vikarma at ahankara level, and that they are all varieties of karma only that perpetuate samsara, as well as the nitya akarma, actionless nature of Atma, despite any false action which is superimposed on Atma. At the time of Gnanam, Gnani has handed over his body to Anatma or Vishwarupa Ishvara, meaning intellectually Abhimana Tyaga, disassociation with Ahankara, and conversion of his karma to Abhasa nature. Gnani will have Jivan Mukti while alive and Videha Mukti when body falls. Atmanaha Purnatvam. That is why Agnani understands that as Satyam Atma, one is able to remain asangoham even when Ahankara is involved in samsara. Gnani's Nitya Mukta Sakshi Atma states makes him free from the obsession and preoccupation with Ahankara and the biography of Ahankara, and this freedom is Mukti. Such a wise person is a real Pandita. Panda means Atma Vishaya Buddhi, Buddhi which is turned towards Atman. Itaha means endowed with. One who has that Panda or Buddhi is Pandita. Who gives the title? Buddha. Wise people only can recognize a wise person. Swamiji says, Paravidya Panditaha alone is Paramartha Panditaha. Thank you, sir. Harihi Om.
Thank you. We learned in for second chapter, that is 11th, that is the first verse. Ashochan anvashocastam pragnadvamscha bhashase gatasun agatasun cha na anushochanti panditaha. There Lord Krishna says panditaha. Who is that panditaha is explained here. Is he a scholar? No. He is the person whose ego or hankara is roasted, as she has beautifully explained, Kirtiji. Such a person, such an enlightened person, is incapable of producing grief or is incapable of experiencing grief. That doesn't mean that he is a zombie. That means, as we explained before, all his actions will be in align with dharma, in align with the all goodness, and in align with love, compassion. And if we see Lord Krishna, entire Mahabharata, and especially in Kurukshetra, he was an ordinary charioteer. He was asked to be a charioteer. Just like many other, we see in our public sector companies, if he's a clerk, he just does clerk work. Like that, Krishna could have done only charioting work, but he doesn't do. He realizes what is dharma, he knows what is adharma, and so even though he doesn't do any, he doesn't leave a one single arrow there. If anybody asks who is responsible for victory of Pandavas, it is Krishna alone. It is mentioned that every arrow which is shot in Kurukshetra passes through Krishna, and it is in fact Krishna who experiences the grief. And he says in one place that all the grief and happiness and joy to me is same. That is the beauty and that is the enlightened person. Such a person cannot give, any grief to anybody. And of course, even though he has notices or he experiences some grief, he doesn't get lost. He realizes what he should do next and he is done. What Samaramba Sarve, another beautiful word, what action he does and why he does. This is a beauty. If you learn these three words, that is it. Kama Sankalpa Varjita. Kama, we all know, desire. Sankalpa is very key, that we should give up. The way it should be like this only. I want my son to be doctor. I want my wife to be like that. I want to be this. This world should be like this. This is the main source of unhappiness. And once we give up this, and that is Varjita, and do action, then our action will not produce any bondage. The nature functions effortlessly. The grass grows, the fish swim. It does not say it acquires any karma. That one day I bought a pot, plant, and I kept in a balcony. There's only one side the light comes. Few days later, the leaves beautifully aligned like that. I was thinking it looked funny. It should be a decorative plant and it should be like that. But it doesn't bother about its looks and other things. It is aligned towards the Lord, the sun. That's how it, even if you turn the other way, it just turns that way. That is how we should be, always in align with the Dharma, in align with the scriptural injunction. And this is when we perform such a action, we don't need to put any effort. It will be as though the work happens by itself. The gnana adi karma, that means whose actions are burnt by this fire of knowledge. That means whose action is out of fulfillment, not and because of not for fulfillment. Such a person is called panditaha, and that's why that person really cannot have grief. This is a very favorite verse of our sir, which I said I will unfold it. The Buddha said, "My doctrine is to think the thought that is unthinkable." That is the mind discipline, the disciplined mind beyond all the turbulations, to practice the deed that is not, that is undoing, that is the kaya, that is once we are with the flow, that means we are not doing any job, it happens by itself. To speak the speech that is inexpressible, that is the universal, that is the silence, that is the reflection of the Lord. Our every action, our every thought, and our every word, it should reflect God. It is not just, you speak about God and behind you do something else, and in the mind you think something else. When all three are in alignment, then we don't need any, somebody telling you do this. And such a person is disciplined beyond any discipline, and whatever he performs, it is inaction, even though he is doing action. This is what many people, many learned masters have given up power, money, kingdoms to attain this. That is these four sentences, and that is the crux. I request you to note this verse and contemplate in early morning or whenever you are free about this and what it means to you and what it brings to your life. Then uh, this is the sadhana, and you will realize what is meaning of God life. Such a person is called Yuta Kritsna Karmakrit. That is, there is no need to go further or end search ends here, and everything is born out of love and not attachment. Always think of empathy and not apathy. Always think of compassion, not desire. These are the values which are beyond religion, which are beyond all deeds, and this is the secret of realization of the self. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Kiran, and all the speakers of the day for the in-depth explanation. Thank you to our gurus and the Guru Parampara. The greatness of the Gita lies in its ability to reveal a new understanding in every Shravanam. We heard how God realization is self-realization. We also heard about the Varna system. The Gita could not be more relevant today. Finally, we discussed the needs and means to give up our attachment towards our action and results through jnana, karma abhasa, dropping the kartatva bhava, dropping the doership. We put too much burden on our mind for happiness. It's not capable of that. It is only an instrument, it's jada. We are looking for happiness in the wrong place. Only our true nature is capable of bliss. To recognize that, we have to loosen our hold on Bhagwan's Maya and hold on to Bhagwan. Krishna says that again and again, Mam Upashritaha. Our gratitude to our gurus and the speakers of the day again for giving us this teaching in simple form. Let us tune in for the 19th session of the Katha Upanishad at 6:45 on this coming Friday, 15th March. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.